But I think you give some credit to, and not from an attacking point of view, but some credit to Arsenal. And I do agree. I mean, I do think they were allowed to get back in to those defensive positions rather easily. But then it became very frustrating for PSG. You know, and it is, and we always say it, when cup competitions, even when you're playing aside from a lower league, if you allow them to get back in to a good defensive structure, basically on the edge of their box, it can be very difficult for a lot of teams with much more talent. So when you've got two teams that are pretty much, in terms of they're on a par with the squads and the players they've got, maybe PSG slightly more talented and technically, but then it becomes very frustrating and very difficult, and you do tend to wander around. So I understand that a little bit, that they would go from right to left into Kvaratskhelia and there was nothing really on, they'd come back out, and it made for quite a boring game. I'll give Arsenal fair play to them for that defensive side of it. But this is two cup finals now, one the Carabao and one with a lot more at stake in the Champions League final. They've tried to defend their way to both. Now, they were horrible against Manchester City at Wembley and lost. And people will say, well, yeah, Kepa played, he made a mistake. But it doesn't matter. They were never even in the game. And they've tried to do it again today. And as Jürgen said, they have a big squad. They have a very good squad, one of the best in Europe, Arsenal. And we saying they can't go toe-to-toe? 70-odd% possession for against 20-odd? That's too big a disparity. That's just allowing possession for possession's sakes. You have to narrow that gap a little bit. 60-40, 55-45, just to give yourself more time, more on the ball, more possession with a purpose. Sometimes you'll get away with defending, and your keeper playing well, as David Raya did, and you might win the odd football match against elite-level competition. But more often than not, I think you'll lose. And I don't think Arsenal were anywhere near progressive enough tonight, and the plaudits that are coming their way because they tried to defend their way to the Champions League title with one of the best squads in Europe is embarrassing.
And to further the point about the difference in possession and how Arsenal was so willing to just forgo the possession, to just give the ball to PSG. From Arsenal kickoff, from their kickoff, their play is to just lump the ball straight up in the air. Now, look, we have managers here in the panel, former managers. How is that, when you value the ball, when the ball is the most important thing, how kicking the ball straight up in the air to the opposition, how is that productive? How does that set you up for success? You're already saying, by design, because this is obviously something that has been discussed and this is what we're going to do, Mikel Arteta is saying, we don't want the ball, give it to them. Put it straight up in the air, give it to them, and we're going to sit right here. That cannot be the way that you approach the game when you are a top side. And Arsenal are one of the top teams in Europe. Of course, they were minutes away from winning this final. But it cannot be that your approach is, you know what, we're just going to forego the possession altogether and we're just going to give it to PSG and we're going to trust that we're going to be hard to break down. It cannot come down to, oh, we got a throw in. Here we go. Here's the set piece that we're looking for. There's got to be more to Arsenal than desperation, set pieces, and just throwing the ball up in the air in order for them to deserve to win this final.
If anything tells me why the Premier League has been horrible this year, there's been some good games, but mainly it's been quite horrible. Set pieces, long throws, not just Arsenal, a lot of teams, defending deep, worried about getting beat, was the fact that Arsenal played the way they played, was the fact that they were reliant on defending, and was the fact that 3 times from a kick-off, they've lobbed it forward like it was a game of rugby. That's embarrassing. They've sat there and said, you know what, let's just launch a high ball every time we get a kick-off and try and win. That's 1980s football back in England. I mean, it really is. So I don't get it. I don't get where all the plaudits. Yeah, Champions League final, they got there, they were competitive because they were defensive. I don't understand all the plaudits when your game plan, once you get the goal, is to just sit back and allow the best footballing side in Europe, as PSG are, just allow them possession of the football and trying to defend for 84 minutes. To me, that's not an acceptable way to try and win this competition.
Robbo, you said you liked the kickoff. That certainly didn't. And as Greg said, it's back to the 80s football. I mean, it's a ridiculous thing. Mind you, PSG usually kick the ball straight out of play and get the opposition to take a throw in. So they're not a lot better. Yeah. But in terms of Arsenal, how have they regressed so badly over the last... And not in terms of results, in terms of their style of football, from what they were up till probably November, December time, when they were the best team in the Champions League. They were the best team in the Premier League by playing good football, by having good rotation, by having combination play in the front areas. I just haven't seen that. So something in Mikel Arteta's head said around about Christmas, we've got to be far more defensive, we've got to be hard to beat, and we're going to play from there. But at the moment, they're not playing anywhere near as well as they can do in the front areas because they've got good players. They've got a great squad. They can be much better than they are.
Jürgen, do you agree?
Just 1 second before we go to Jürgen. I think the team selection tells you a lot. I know Jürgen Timber's had some injury problems. He's not fully fit and he's a terrific player. But the fact you're playing 4 centre-backs along the back four tells you that you're more worried about... And by the way, Doué and Kvaratskhelia are very good players, brilliant players. But it's telling me you're accepting that they're going to push you back rather than selecting an attacking right-back or certainly a Calafiore at left-back who is going to get forward. He's going to do... And I know Calafiore is also a centre-half, but he's played left-back a lot and he gets forward. And he's naturally getting forward on that side. But the team selection is telling you, right, we are selecting this team to contain, not to try and push back their good players, to sit back and allow them to attack us. That's why he played those two full-backs the way he did.
Is that criticism of Arteta fair, Jürgen?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, it's not about criticizing Arteta. Obviously, they won the Premier League and then they got into the final of the Champions League. It's huge. But Arteta's mindset the last couple of months changed. You know, he went more into a thought kind of process of not to lose the games and rather make it clear to win the games. And it's basically more about, you know, defending what you already built instead of going for the ultimate titles. And the opponents, they smell that. You know, a team like Paris Saint-Germain, especially a manager like Luis Enrique, they see that, they smell that, they see the formation before the game and said, oh, you know, he's going a little bit more defensive than usual or than maybe a half a year ago. So he will not take too many risks. So what he was smart today, Luis Enrique, even after the equalizer then through Dembélé, then a penalty, then he didn't open up too much, even if they created far more chances than Arsenal. They played far more proactive in attacking. But also PSG was very conservative in a certain way, not to allow Arsenal the space that they maybe were hoping for 1 or 2 counter breaks and then kill the game off. So that's why we saw a quite boring game at the end of the day. But you build a mindset when you go in there with, if it's a not to lose mindset that will carry you on throughout not only the 90 minutes and the 120 minutes, it carries you also then into the penalty shootout. Now, penalty shootouts is obviously big time the mental side of executing your penalty, and it's trained. They train that before the game, and they prepare themselves. But if you're already 120 minutes having a mindset of reacting to the game instead of being proactive and acting, then suddenly you have to walk up there, 50 yards, and now you got to execute something. So you have to be on a proactive mind now. So that plays games with you. It plays games with you because you were in 120 minutes more negative than actually positive. And now you have to be 1,000% positive to put this penalty into the back of the net. And so it's all those little things that at the end of the day decide such a final. And I think, Arsenal, when they look back now at this final, they really wish, looking back at it, to have approached it far more positive minded, far more attacking minded, with a different mindset. And it's not coming back anymore. You will have that in the back of your mind for the rest of your life.
But that's the mindset of the manager.
Yeah, that's exactly. Jürgen, I was going to bring that up because I said on yesterday's show, has Arteta learnt his lesson from the Carabao Cup final? And it was like, yeah, of course he has. He would have looked at it, he would have analysed it, and he would have moved on from that, and he'd used that experience in this final, yet there didn't seem to be any evidence of that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting discussion because you saw it, we talked about it before. You saw Alejandro said it, you know, the 2021 European Championship final between England and Italy. You know, we sat there. I was at that game, and England was up 1-0, and they asked me about the game now, how they should continue. I said they should go for the second goal. England need to score a second goal, otherwise Italy will come back. You know, they're pragmatic, they are more defensive-minded, but they will come back now because they have no other choice. So England decided to basically be more defensive. They pulled back, and what happened? Italy changed their style, became more proactive, which is not really in an Italian culture, but they turned the game around, took it to penalty shootout with a more positive mindset and won it. And this is why, you know, these knockout games, you know, obviously a final is a knockout game. It's a one-off. Like in a World Cup, you have the knockout phase where it's pretty much every game in the knockout phase is a final. I totally believe that you have to be there more proactive, more positive, more attacking-minded, because, I mean, as we often say, you know, defense wins championship over the run of 38 games, like in the Premier League now, like Arsenal did. But one-off games, in my opinion, always decided by teams that are on the more attacking and proactive mind.
There's no right and wrong way to win a game of football. There is just not. We can all have an opinion on how a team should play and what you want to watch. But there's no right and wrong way. There's just winners and there's losers. There's good results and there's bad results. But I'll take a PSG Bayern all day, every day. I get up against this. Now it's delivered success in the Premier League. But the frustration for me watching Arsenal, and I don't care who win this game, to be honest. You know, the best team will win it, and I think the best team did win it. But watching Arsenal, the frustration from a sort of neutral, objective point of view is there's much more in this team. And I don't say that in a sense that, you know, they've won the Premier League, and I'm not taking that away. But in terms of performance, in terms of the competitive edge in this game today and in other games in England that they've got away with, because you're not playing PSG. You're playing Burley in the second last game. You're playing Crystal Palace. You're playing sides like that. That's okay. It's all very well doing it then. But to try and do it here against this kind of team, I just don't think it's got any longevity. And I look at the players that they have, and I think that there is much more when, as Jürgen said, when they got that goal for a reason, because PSG were fragile. Arsenal could get at them. Arsenal could pressurise them. Arsenal did have some pace to get in behind. William Pacho was looking a bit dodgy whenever that ball went up the middle and Havertz was being physical with him. But yet they just regressed back to their norm of the last 3 or 4 months. And that has to be frustrating if you're sitting there saying, well, why are we not getting Odegaard on the ball? Why are we not getting Eze and Saka and Declan Rice, who's a very good... Why are we not getting these guys on the ball 30, 40 yards further up the field? Rather than winning the ball back or PSG coughing it up in the edge of Arsenal's penalty box, then you've got nowhere to go. You basically got a front man who's come back in to help in Havertz, and you haven't got an out ball. You can't win the ball back in the edge of your box with everybody defending, and if you hit a 30, 40 yard ball, it's coming straight back. So when you're defending as deep as they were, with as many as they were, when you win it, there is nowhere to go unless somebody takes it on a 50-yard mazy run, which is very unlikely. It's such a frustrating way to watch Arsenal play, and in today's evidence, it just hasn't been successful.